Right now, as you watch this, your mind is probably somewhere else. Maybe it is replaying a painful conversation from last week. Maybe it is calculating what your life should look like 5 years from now. Maybe it is silently judging what you see, comparing who you are to who you wish you were. And here is the brutal truth that most people never wake up to. That constant mental noise in your head, that voice that never stops, the one that worries, complains, plans, regrets, and narrates everything, that voice is not you. And as long as you believe it is, you will suffer. What if I told you that the greatest spiritual teacher of the last 30 years discovered this, not through years of meditation in a monastery, but on the edge of a complete mental breakdown, alone in a dark room at 29 years old, about to end his own life? What if the key to peace, joy, and real freedom was not a better job, a better relationship, more money, or more knowledge, but something that is already available to you right here in this exact moment? This is the teaching of Eckhart Tolle. This is the message of one of the most transformative books ever written. This is the power of now. And by the end of this video, you will not only understand the full depth of this book, you will know exactly how to start living its teachings today. Before we go deep, if you are new here, welcome to Millionaire Playbook. This channel is built on one principle. Real knowledge is useless unless you implement it. Every video we create is designed not just to inform you, but to transform how you think and how you live. If you are serious about building a better mind, a better life, and a better future, hit that subscribe button right now and join a community of people who are actually doing the work. Now, let us begin. The origin, how this book was born. To understand the power of now, you have to understand where it came from. Eckhart Tolle was not always a spiritual teacher. For most of his life, he lived in a state of constant anxiety and depression. He describes it as almost unbearable, a relentless inner suffering that never gave him peace. Then one night, just before his 29th birthday, something happened that would change everything. He woke up in the early hours of the morning, gripped by a deep terror. The room felt alien. Life felt meaningless. The thought that kept repeating in his mind was, I cannot live with myself any longer. And then, in a flash of awareness that would define the rest of his life, a strange thought stopped him cold. He thought, wait, if I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me. There is the I, and there is the self that I cannot live with. Which one is real? In that instant, his mind stopped. Not gradually, not slowly, it just stopped. He was pulled into what he described as a vortex of energy. He felt fear, and then surrender, and then nothing. He lost consciousness. When he woke up the next morning to the sound of a bird outside his window, everything was different. The world looked fresh, profoundly still, radiant. He walked around in a state of pure wonder for months, sitting on park benches, watching the world, feeling a peace and a bliss that he had never known before. It was only years later, after reading spiritual texts and working with teachers, that he understood what had happened. The intense pressure of his suffering had forced his consciousness to detach from the false, mind-identified self, the ego, and in that collapse, his true nature was revealed. What was left was pure presence, pure being. That experience became this book. You are not your mind. Here is the single most important idea in this entire book, and it's also the hardest for most people to accept. You are not your mind. Think about that for a second. What do you think you are? Most people, if you ask them, will describe a collection of thoughts, memories, opinions, desires, and fears. That's the mind. And we have become so identified with that voice in our heads that we think we are that voice. But Tolle makes a radical distinction. The mind is a tool, like a hammer or a calculator. It's extraordinarily useful for certain things, but somewhere along the line, we forgot we were holding the hammer. We became the hammer. Here's how he illustrates this. Think of a beggar who sits on an old box for 30 years asking for change. One day, a stranger tells him to look inside the box. The beggar does, and the box is filled with gold. You are that beggar. The treasure, the deep peace, the joy, the stillness is not somewhere out there. It's inside you right now. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise. So what exactly is the mind doing wrong? Tolle explains that the mind is obsessed with time. It constantly pulls you into the past, into memories, regrets, and stories about who you are and what happened to you. And it constantly pulls you into the future, into plans, worries, fantasies, and fears about what might happen. The one place the mind refuses to exist is the present moment. And this is the root of all suffering. Now here is something even more profound. He describes emotions as the body's reaction to your mind, not separate from thoughts, a physical reflection of them. When you have an angry thought, you feel anger in your body. When you have a fearful thought, your body contracts. When you have a loving thought, your body opens. This means that if you want to know what your mind is really thinking at a deeper level, you don't analyze your thoughts, you feel your body. The body never lies. The practical lesson here is this. Begin to notice the gap between yourself and your thoughts. You are not the thinker. You are the one who notices the thinker. The pain body. This is one of the most powerful and unsettling concepts in the book. Tolle introduces what he calls the pain body. Here's what he means. Every time you experience emotional pain and don't fully process it, you leave a residue, a leftover fragment of unresolved suffering. Over years and decades, these fragments accumulate, they merge with each other, and eventually they form a kind of semi-autonomous energy field inside you that Tolle calls the pain body. Think of it like a parasite, a dark, heavy presence living inside you that feeds on emotional pain. It's dormant most of the time, but it periodically wakes up and takes you over. And when it does, it needs to feed. It needs more pain. So what does it do? It creates pain. It generates negative thinking. It triggers conflicts. It picks fights. It replays the worst moments of your life on repeat. It says things to make you feel small, worthless, or afraid. And if you're not watching closely, if you're not present enough, you think those thoughts are you. You become the pain body. This is why sometimes you look back at an argument or a reaction and think, why did I behave that way? That wasn't me. And you're right, it wasn't you. It was the pain body. Here's the critical insight. The pain body can't survive in the light of your conscious awareness. The moment you recognize it, the moment you say, this is my pain body being triggered right now, I can feel this energy in me, the spell is broken. You are no longer identified with it. You become the watcher, the observer, and observation transforms it. Tolle also explains where fear comes from. Most fear is not a response to actual danger in the present moment. It's the mind projecting a threatening scenario into the future and then reacting to that imaginary threat as if it were real right now. There's an anxiety gap. You're here, but your mind is in the future, and you can't cope with the future because the future doesn't exist. The only thing you ever truly have to deal with is now. The action step here is powerful. The next time you feel intense emotional pain or reactivity, pause. Don't express it outward immediately. Don't suppress it either. Instead, feel it in your body. Name it if you can. Watch it. Stay present with it. You'll notice it begins to lose its grip. The simple act of conscious attention begins to dissolve it. Moving deeply into the now. Tolle now makes one of the most paradigm-shattering arguments in the book. He says time is the source of most human suffering. And he's not talking about clock time, time as in, I need to be at the airport by 3 o'clock. That kind of time is practical and necessary. He's talking about what he calls psychological time. Psychological time is when you make your identity out of the past, when you define yourself by your story, your achievements, your wounds, your history, or when you place your fulfillment in the future, when I get the promotion, when I find the relationship, when I have enough money. That's psychological time. And it is, Tolle argues, a collective madness. Here's why. The present moment is the only moment that is real. The past is a memory, a set of thought impressions stored in your mind. The future is an imagined projection. Neither of them actually exists right now. The only thing that exists is this moment, right here, right now. And yet, almost all human suffering is created by either clinging to the past or fearing the future. We are haunted by what was and anxious about what might be, and in doing so, we completely miss the only thing that is actually real. Tolle describes a shift that happens when you genuinely drop psychological time, even for a few seconds. There's a sense of vast, quiet aliveness, a feeling of completeness, of wholeness, not because anything changed on the outside, but because you stopped fighting against the present moment. He calls this the joy of being, and he says it's your natural state, not something you have to earn or create. It's already there, underneath the noise. The key practice here is this. Ask yourself, right now, in this moment, do I have any problems? Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Most people find when they honestly ask that question that in this immediate moment, everything is actually okay. The suffering is almost always in the mind's relationship to time, not in the actual present. Mind strategies for avoiding the now. Tolle dedicates an entire chapter to exploring all the subtle ways we unconsciously run away from the present moment. He calls it ordinary unconsciousness, and it is so normal, so pervasive, that most people never notice it. What does ordinary unconsciousness look like in daily life? It looks like complaining. Every complaint is a refusal to accept what is. Every time you complain about the weather, about traffic, about a colleague, about your body, you are fighting the present moment. And fighting the present moment creates suffering without changing anything. It looks like chronic waiting, not just physical waiting in a queue, but psychological waiting. I will be happy when the weekend comes. I will feel fulfilled when I reach my goals. I will relax when the project is finished. When you are always waiting for the future to deliver your happiness, you never actually arrive anywhere. And each moment of your life becomes just a stepping stone to the next thing. You miss your actual life. It looks like resentment. Carrying unspoken bitterness towards someone close to you and letting it contaminate every interaction. It looks like worry, playing out fearful scenarios in your mind that have not happened and may never happen, but reacting to them physically and emotionally as if they were occurring right now. Tolle offers a clear principle here. He says, wherever you are, be there totally. Whatever you are doing, do it fully. If you are in a meeting, be in the meeting. If you are eating dinner, be eating dinner. If you are having a conversation, be in that conversation with your whole self. Stop mentally projecting yourself away from where you are. He also introduces a beautiful framework for dealing with difficult situations. He says you always have 3 choices: change the situation, leave the situation, or accept the situation completely. What is not an option, what always makes things worse, is to stay in the situation while mentally and emotionally resisting it. That is the recipe for chronic misery. The state of presence. Now, Tolle goes deeper and begins to describe what presence actually feels like. He says you cannot think about presence. The mind cannot understand it. Understanding presence is being present. He offers a simple experiment you can try right now. Close your eyes. Ask yourself, what is my next thought going to be? Then wait. Just wait and watch for the thought to arrive. What happens? Almost everyone reports that when they do this, there is a brief gap, a moment of stillness, nothing. And in that stillness, there is no anxiety, no suffering, no problem. That gap, however short, is presence. And presence is where everything good comes from. Beauty cannot be experienced without presence. You can look at a flower without truly seeing it if your mind is somewhere else. You can listen to music without truly hearing it. You can be in the same room with someone you love without truly connecting with them, because real experience, real life, only happens in the present. Tolle says that most people live their entire lives moving between different levels of unconsciousness, never accessing the state of pure, awakened presence. But it is always available. It requires no special training. It requires nothing except this, the willingness to be here. He describes the state beautifully. When you are truly present, something extraordinary happens. The world does not change, but your perception of it does. You become aware of a quiet aliveness in everything, a sense that existence itself is somehow sacred and whole. The Zen masters called glimpses of this satori, flashes of no mind. The practice is simple but challenging. Throughout your day, create pause points. Take one conscious breath. Look at your hands and feel the life in them. Feel your feet on the ground. Listen to the sounds around you as if you had never heard them before. These small acts of returning to the present accumulate into a new way of living. The inner body. One of the most practical and immediately usable teachings in the book is what Tolle calls the inner body. He explains that your body is always in the present moment. It never drifts into the past. It never projects into the future. Right now, your body is here. Your breath is here. The energy flowing through your arms, your legs, your chest, it is here. So he says, use the body as your anchor to the now. The practice is this. At any moment, close your eyes and feel the subtle sense of aliveness inside your hands. Not the physical sensation of skin or temperature, but the underlying energy, the vitality that animates your body. Feel it in your arms, in your chest, in your legs, in your entire body simultaneously. When you do this, even briefly, your mind goes quiet, because you cannot think intensely and feel your inner body at the same time. Awareness of the inner body dissolves thought. Tolle describes the inner body as your invisible, indestructible reality. The outer body ages and changes, but the inner body, the life force itself, does not age. A 20-year-old and an 80-year-old feel the same vitality in their inner body. He makes a remarkable claim that staying consistently connected to the inner body strengthens the immune system, slows the aging process, and makes you resilient against the negative energy fields of other people. Not as a mystical claim, but because when you are present and grounded in your body, fear and anxiety cannot take hold. You are rooted. He also addresses forgiveness through the body. He says that many people cannot feel their inner body because an old emotion is blocking the way. Before you can go inward, sometimes you have to acknowledge and feel the unresolved emotion, grief, resentment, anger, without suppressing it or dramatizing it. Simply feel it with your full attention and it will begin to release. The daily practice is straightforward. 3 times a day, spend 60 seconds scanning your inner body. Feel the aliveness from your feet to the top of your head. Do this especially when you wake up, before stressful situations, and before sleep. Over time, this becomes a natural background presence. The portals into the unmanifested. This is where Tolle takes the teaching into its deepest dimension. He explains that beyond the visible physical world, the world of forms, objects, and events, there is a formless, timeless dimension he calls the unmanifested. This is the source. This is pure consciousness before it takes on any particular shape. And he says there are portals you can use to consciously access this dimension. The first portal is the now itself. Pure present moment awareness is a direct doorway. The second portal is the inner body. Feeling deeply into the inner energy of your body takes you beneath the level of thought and into the formless. The third portal is silence, not the absence of sound, but the awareness of the silence that exists between and beneath all sounds. Every sound is born from silence. When you tune your attention to the silence rather than the sounds, something opens. The noise of the mind stills. The fourth portal is space. We are trained to see things, objects, forms, and events, but space is also real. The empty space in a room, the space between the words you are reading, the vastness between stars. When you deliberately turn your attention to space itself, to what is not there, something remarkable happens in your consciousness. The fifth portal is dreamless sleep. Tolle says that every night you dip into the unmanifested, the formless source in deep, dreamless sleep. You return refreshed, not because the body rested, but because consciousness touched its source. The tragedy is that you do it unconsciously, so the liberation it contains is not experienced. The teaching here is not abstract, it is utterly practical. Begin listening to silence. Become aware of space. These are not complicated spiritual exercises. They are simple shifts of attention, and each one, practiced regularly, dissolves the noise of the mind and connects you to the depth beneath it. Enlightened relationships. Most people seek relationships to fill an inner void, to feel whole, to escape loneliness and incompleteness. Tolle argues that this approach is the source of most relationship suffering. He explains that romantic love, as most people experience it, is not actually love, it is ego need dressed up as love. When you first fall in love, the other person fills you up. They give you a sense of completeness, of aliveness, of meaning. But this is just a more powerful version of what drugs, food, or shopping also provide: temporary relief from the ego's sense of incompleteness. And, like any addiction, it works only for a while. Then the feelings fade. The person changes or disappears or fails to meet your needs, and the hidden pain that the relationship temporarily covered, the fear, the emptiness, the loneliness, resurfaces. Now more intense than before, and because the other person cannot give you what you need, the relationship turns into a war. This is what Tolle calls the love-hate cycle, and he says it is nearly universal in unconscious relationships. True love, he says, is something fundamentally different. It is not a need. It is not a craving. It arises when your consciousness is freed from ego and you encounter another person from the stillness of presence. In that state, you do not need the other person to complete you. You are already whole. And from that wholeness, connection becomes genuine, open, and free. He offers a radical suggestion for how to transform a troubled relationship: complete acceptance of your partner as they are, right now, without needing them to change. Not because their behavior is acceptable or right, but because judgment and resistance only strengthen the ego on both sides. When you release the compulsion to fix or change the other person, something shifts. The space between you becomes breathable. He also says relationships are among the most powerful forms of spiritual practice available, not because they make you happy, but because they bring out your unconsciousness faster than anything else. Every conflict, every triggered reaction, every moment of jealousy or control or neediness, these are invitations to become aware, to watch, to choose consciousness over reaction. Beyond happiness and unhappiness. Here is one of the most liberating insights in the entire book. What if the peace you are seeking cannot be found in happiness? Tolle explains that happiness and unhappiness are two sides of the same coin. They are both dependent on external conditions. You are happy when things go your way. You are unhappy when they do not. This means you are fundamentally a victim of circumstance. Your inner state is controlled by the outer world. But beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. He describes this peace as an abiding stillness that is not the opposite of anything. It does not require good circumstances. It does not disappear when bad things happen. It is the deep ground of your being, and it is there right now, underneath all the noise. This is what the Buddha pointed to with the concept of impermanence. All conditions arise and pass away. Every success contains the seed of failure. Every happiness contains the seed of sorrow. The Buddhist monk quoted in the book says it beautifully: "All that arises passes away. This I know."
And through that knowing, through the acceptance of impermanence, I have found peace. This is not nihilism. Tolle is not saying nothing matters. He is saying, do not confuse your life with your life situation. Your life is your circumstances, the job, the relationship, the bank account, the body. Those are subject to change and loss. But your life, your being, is not. It is the awareness underneath all circumstances, and that awareness is indestructible. He introduces the concept of the pain body's relationship to negativity here too. Negativity, anger, resentment, depression, irritation, is never the optimal response to any situation. It does not solve problems. It does not create positive change. It only strengthens the ego and prolongs suffering. Animals, he notes, do not carry negativity the way humans do. After a conflict, a duck flaps its wings and moves on. The fight is over. No resentment, no replaying, no victim story. This, he says, is natural wisdom. The meaning of surrender. The final major teaching of the book is the one that ties everything together, surrender. And before you react to that word, Tolle is careful to clarify what he does not mean. Surrender does not mean passivity. It does not mean giving up. It does not mean accepting abuse or injustice. It does not mean stop taking action or stop working towards goals. True surrender is inner acceptance of what is, in this moment, without resistance. That is all, and it is everything. He gives a beautiful analogy. Imagine you are stuck in mud. Resignation says, fine, I accept being stuck in mud. That is not what he means. He means acknowledge that you are stuck in mud. Do not add a layer of inner resistance and judgment and emotional suffering on top of the external problem. Accept the reality of the situation, then take action to get out of it. One clear, focused, non-reactive action at a time. The paradox, and Tolle notes this as one of the strangest and most verified truths of the spiritual life, is that surrender actually opens you to greater effectiveness, not less. When you are no longer fighting reality with resistance, when your energy is not consumed by internal conflict, something opens, clarity comes, the right action becomes obvious, life itself begins to cooperate. He describes what he calls surrendered action, doing that is not driven by anxiety or ego or fear of failure, but arises naturally from a state of presence. This kind of action has a completely different quality. It is lighter, more creative, more effective, and it leaves no residue of suffering. He also addresses the relationship between surrender and illness. If you are dealing with serious illness or hardship, surrender means not adding psychological suffering on top of physical reality. It means withdrawing your identification from the story about the illness, the past of it, the future of it, and coming fully into the present moment with it. In that surrender, sometimes healing happens in ways that defy conventional explanation, and even when physical healing does not occur, inner peace does. The most powerful line in the entire chapter: the moment you completely accept your non-peace becomes transmuted into peace. Acceptance is the miracle of surrender. Full implementation: how to actually live this. Understanding this book intellectually changes nothing. Implementation is everything. Here is a step-by-step system you can start today. Every single morning, before you look at your phone, before you speak to anyone, spend 3 minutes in body awareness. Lie still and feel the life energy in your hands, arms, legs, and entire body. Do not think, just feel. This connects you to the inner body and sets a different tone for your entire day. Throughout your day, practice what Tolle calls the one conscious breath. Before any important conversation, before you reply to a message, before you walk into a meeting, take one full conscious breath. That single breath is enough to break the chain of reactive unconsciousness and bring you back into the present. When you feel an emotion like anger, anxiety, or sadness rising, do not react immediately and do not suppress it. Instead, feel it in your body for 30 to 60 seconds. Name it silently. This is fear. This is the pain body. This is resistance. Watch it. In most cases, it will begin to soften on its own. Practice the three-choice rule whenever you face a difficult situation. Ask, can I change this? If yes, change it. Can I leave it? If yes, leave it. If neither, accept it completely, release inner resistance, and then act from clarity instead of reaction. In your relationships, practice 1 day a week where your primary intention is not to be right, but to be present. Listen to the other person as if their existence itself is the most interesting thing in the room. This alone will transform your connections more than any communication technique ever will. Each evening, ask yourself one question before sleep. How much of today did I actually spend in the present moment? Not as a judgment, but as an honest observation. This builds the self-awareness that makes change possible. The 7 core mindset shifts. To live the power of now fully, these are the shifts you need to make at the deepest level. The first shift, from thinking that you are your thoughts to knowing that you are the awareness watching your thoughts. The second shift, from using time as your primary reality to using the present moment as your home. The third shift, from seeking fulfillment in external conditions to discovering the completeness that is already within you. The fourth shift, from resisting what is to fully accepting what is and then acting from that acceptance. The fifth shift, from treating your emotions as problems to seeing them as teachers that reveal what is unconscious in you. The sixth shift, from viewing relationships as a source of happiness to seeing them as opportunities for awakened consciousness. The seventh shift, from fearing death and impermanence to recognizing that what you truly are, pure awareness, is beyond birth and death. Powerful recap and closing. Let me bring this all together. Eckhart Tolle wrote The Power of Now to deliver one message, and it is this: the source of all suffering is the unobserved mind, and the end of suffering begins the moment you become present.
You are not your thoughts. You are not your story. You are not your past. You are not your fear about the future. You are the awareness behind all of it, the still, clear, awake presence that has been here through every experience of your life and never changed. The pain body that lives inside you is not you. It is accumulated past pain, and it dissolves in the light of conscious attention. The ego that fights, defends, and competes is not you. It is a mind-made identity that collapses the moment you stop feeding it with unconscious identification. Every relationship in your life can become a spiritual practice. Every difficulty can be used for awakening. Every moment of resistance is an invitation to surrender. And surrender is not weakness. It is the most powerful thing you can do. It is the doorway to a completely different kind of life. The present moment is not a stepping stone to somewhere better. The present moment is the destination. It is the only place where life actually happens. It is the only place where peace is found. It is the only place where love is real. And it is available to you right now. Not after you figure things out, not when your circumstances improve, not when you have enough time or enough money or enough experience. Right now, in this exact moment. You only need to stop running from it. The beggar has been sitting on his box of gold for 30 years. All it takes is one moment of looking inside. That moment is now. If this video shifted something in you, that is the book working through these ideas. Imagine what happens when you actually read it, live it, and practice it every single day. The transformation that Tolle describes is not a theory, it is a lived experience, and it begins with a single decision: to stop living in your head and to start living in the only place that is real. If you found value in this breakdown, subscribe to Millionaire Playbook, share this video with one person who needs it, and in the comments right now, tell me which idea from this book hit you the hardest. We have more deep dive breakdowns coming, books that do not just give you information, but give you the tools to actually change the way you live. The work starts now. See you in the next one.